Hey, it's Dave Parrots, the Fund CXO and founder of Signal Fund Services. Today, we're going to continue our series on minimum viable venture fund operations with episode 9, Navigating Tools and Service Providers. So, if you're a GP, an LP, fund operator, or service provider in venture, this series is for you. We're going to be pulling back the curtain on how venture funds are built and how the modern ones operate. And as I said, today we're going to be diving into picking out your initial set of tools and service providers, or as you move from fund to fund, changing. And what are the considerations? How do you go about doing it? And what are the key thought processes as you're picking out your tech stack and service provider stack? All right, so let's dive in. First things first, Rome wasn't built in a day. You don't want to go out and just spend, spend, spend. There is a method to the madness. And the first thing you want to do is figure out where you are in this maturation process. Are you just building out minimum viable operations? Are you trying to professionalize, operationalize, and institutionalize a team? Or are you already on the path towards establishing your strategic differentiation? We're going to be focusing today on the earlier part of this curve, where you have less revenue or even pre-revenue, and you've got a set of constraints and expectations from LPs, and you have to navigate the service provider and tech stack choices of people, processing, technology to build your firm. All right. So the last little caveat before we dive in is discipline and behaviors over tools and teams. Don't buy expensive digital paperweights. If you can't do it well in Excel, if you can't track it, follow up and do the weekly meetings and keep the cadence, buying an expensive tool isn't a panacea. So, what does the environment look like today for GPs trying to build out a team? And I think the big takeaways are what you're trying to do is build, buy, or borrow all of the service providers, internal team, or outside tools to create a full stack finance team. Now, your LPs have experience with other private funds, real estate, private equity, hedge funds. They have IR teams, they have reporting cadences, they have annual meetings. So you are being compared to other firms, but your LPs are probably right sizing those expectations. Regardless, you as a growing GP probably don't want to be given a participation trophy. You want to build the best tech stack and team and processes and systems to compete with the big billion-dollar funds. So what do, right? You can typically right now go out and find great service providers for some of the big pieces: audit, tax, fund admin, legal, and your bank, right? Those are well-known scopes of work, and those companies have streamlined and automated and thought deeply about the workflows. They're integrating machine learning and AI and advanced technology into their tools and their service offerings, right? So finding the right set of service providers is critical, and there's a lot of them, and you have to go through many different versions, right? The other half of that is the tech stack, the tech tools, right? There are a lot of those, and there's never been a better time to be a GP in terms of people building tech tools for you. There have been a lot of advances across CRMs, across team management, task management, project management, against data collection and fund modeling, due diligence, getting deals closed, getting LPs on, and then even your basic finance tech stack, getting bills paid and getting credit cards reimbursed, right? All of that happens in this people, process, and technology stack. So this is what you're trying to replicate, is some variation of pulling in these different tools, these different service providers to complete a full finance team, right? And to make it look and feel like that way to your LPs. Okay, so with 1,000 choices, how do you get started in this process? And we help funds do this all the time in our fund launch, where first thing is, after we know where they are, right, the firm in our maturation process, we want to understand what do the LPs and what do the founders expect. And I think of this as like a syllabus from a college course, right? First week of college, everyone's there, professor hands out a syllabus telling you what they expect. They're going to lay out the types of graded events, right? finals, midterms, papers, maybe just attendance or sections, sign up. Then they're also going to tell you the weighting, right? How important that is to your grade. And that's critical. You really want to understand from your LPs or your founders by going out and actually talking to them, survey them, ask them these questions. What do you care about? And then you want to find out that priority. What's the weighting of it, right? That's step 1A. 1B then is recognizing in which areas that you've been given, expectations from your LPs and founders, which ones can they give you extra credit for? Which ones can they actually measure when you go above and beyond? And how can you, when you put extra effort in, be rewarded for that? That's like critical to this. So when you're trying to build out this syllabus of what they want, what they expect, what can you get extra credit for, that goes into setting the requirements for that sector, right? So let's take finance, or let's take fund admin as an example here, right? So we know that LPs care about accuracy. We know they care about timing and being on time with reports and tax documents. And we know that they want a portal, right? Those are things. We also know that it's really hard for, your average LP to differentiate between the top one or two portals. But a good portal from a bad one, we can all tell the difference, right? And same is true for, some of the reporting. Enriched, high quality reporting, great. If it's a lot earlier than expected, maybe that's great. Maybe not. If it's just on time, that's good enough, right? And so you understand exactly what are the requirements that the service provider and its scope of work have to meet for your particular set of LPs and founders. And then from there, you're going to do this same process for fund admin, for audit, for tax, and you're going to be thinking about the requirements. Can they meet them in the scope of work? And then how much does it cost? And you're going to build a list of all the costs of all of these tools in some sort of back office tracker. And you're going to see about a monthly, quarterly, annual budget. And can you afford this? Then you're going to go back and iterate and prioritize and figure out what is most important. And you're going to do this process over and over and over again. And this is how, at the end of the day, you really determine what are the best tech stack and tools for you to use. Now, I'm going to shortcut it a little bit for you and give you a quick highlight on what I see every day in the market. Okay. So we got 3 different fund budget categories here, right? So the funds that are sub 25 million in AUM have one set of budget realities. Funds at 100 million and above in AUM have a different reality. And so when we look at where I normally see people prioritize and spend their money in the back office and on the finance and tech stack and on the tools, usually your fund admin, tax, legal, and bank are must-haves. And you want to make sure that if it costs a little bit more, but it meets the exact requirement and your LPs and founders will be happy and your operations will run smooth, it probably is worth it. Now, at a small level, audit's one of those ones that might be questionable. A super expensive audit for a $5 million fund may not make as much sense. And so you want to kind of think about how you go about solving that problem, right? And then others we can see down here in the red and the yellow, the simple kind of through line here is if you have the resources to have an annual meeting, to pay for director and observer insurance, to pay for research, you can do that and prioritize those things. If you don't have the budget, that will change your strategy. Back to fund size is your strategy. That's also true for your back office, right? So your fund size is your strategy for investment. That flows through to your back office. And so you see smaller funds just have less resources and will have to make strategic decisions of whether to take boards or not, whether to host big annual meetings or not, and whether to pay for expensive research or to try to, the equivalent of growth hack or guerrilla market to find that research, right? So there's lots of options out there, lots of ways to navigate this. There are some realities, and we're here to help you figure it out. So if you're curious what tools people are using, how they're stacking them together to build out that full back office, and what's on the horizon next, we're here to talk. As always, you can reach out, Dave at Signal Fund Services, or you can connect on LinkedIn, and I'll see you out there.